important concept in this chapter biomolecules is protein. Students, protein is not a new topic to you all. You all intake protein each and every day. Protein is a naturally occurring biomolecules which you obtain from your diet or foodstuff that you intake every day. So you consume proteins from cereals, from grain, pulses, peanuts, egg, fish, meat that you eat every day in your diet. Protein is found in various parts in living organisms. It is found in living cells. It is present in hair, skin, muscles, nerves, enzymes, hormones of living organism. Proteins contain important elements such as carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus. It also contains elements such as cobalt, iron, magnesium, copper, and zinc. Understand the definition of protein. So students, proteins are amino acids joined together. So when lots of amino acids are being joined together, it leads to the formation of proteins. So we can also say that proteins are polymers of amino acids. Now what are these amino acids? We will be studying in previous next slides. Okay. So amino acids are basically the molecules which have a amino group. It has a carboxyl group and it has a side chain or R group. Now students, because there are lots of amino acids in the protein, that is why the molecular weight of protein is very high. It contains nitrogenous compounds and on hydrolysis it yields alpha amino acids. The second definition is proteins are polyamides having high molecular weight polymers of the monomer units called alpha amino acids. So students, proteins are basically the monomers of alpha amino acids, and when lots of alpha amino acids are being attached to each other, it leads to the formation of polyamides. So which are these proteins? Now students, over here you all can see the structure of the protein. In the first figure, you all can see that there are two different amino acids which are joined to each other by a peptide linkage. Okay, or you all can see that carboxyl group of one molecule is attached to NH2 group of another molecule, and it has led to the formation of CONH. That is nothing but the peptide bond or the peptide linkage. So these two amino groups are being attached to each other by a peptide linkage. Now students, on hydrolysis it will give rise to two different amino acids. So over here you all can see that the NH group had a lone pair of electrons, so this H will go and get attracted towards the NH group, and this OH will go and get attracted to the C double bond O group, and this leads to the formation of two different alpha amino acids. Now why is it called as alpha amino acid? Because students, we have already studied in last year in basic principles of organic chemistry, okay, about the functional groups, about the priority of functional groups. So if you all can see, there are two functional groups over here, that is the carboxyl group and the amino group. And over here you all can see that the carboxyl group is the main group. It has the priority. So besides the main functional group, the carbon atom which is there, it is called as the alpha carbon, and as this amino acid has this alpha carbon, that is why it is called as alpha amino acids. So students, over here you all can see two different molecules of alpha amino acids. Okay, and this R group is called as variable R group, as it will differ from amino acids, different amino acids. Now there are in all 20 amino acids, so the R group will be different for each one. So students, in this slide you all can see there are various molecules of amino acids which are linked to one another by peptide bond. So peptide bond is basically an amide that is formed between two or more amino acids between COOH group and the amino group. and this is formed by elimination of water molecules. So students, over here you all can see there are 3 to 4 molecules of amino acids. There are more molecules of amino acids which are linked together with the help of the peptide bond, and this is nothing but the structure of proteins, where you all can see a number of amino acids. Students, let us understand what is alpha amino acid. It is very important topic. So students, alpha amino acids are basically the derivatives of carboxylic acid. So students, in the figure below you all can see that there is a carboxylic group, and besides the carboxylic group there is a carbon atom. So as the carbon atom of the carboxylic group has the highest priority, as it is a functional group, so the carbon that is beside that functional group is called as the alpha carbon atom. So now you all can see that attached to the alpha carbon atom we are having two hydrogen atoms and one alkyl group. That alkyl group is a variable alkyl group, that is there are 20 amino acids. So each amino acid may have a different alkyl group. Now, how exactly are these alpha amino acids formed? So, the hydrogen atom of the alpha carbon is being replaced by a amino group, that is the NH2 group, and the hydrogen atom is being removed and this amino acid comes and get attached to the alpha carbon atom, and in this way the alpha amino acid is being formed. Students, on this slide we have the representation of alpha amino acid. So as I have already told you all about alpha amino acids, so they are just the derivatives of carboxylic acid. So you all can see that there are two functional groups. First is the carboxyl group and the second one is the amino group. Now students, the carboxyl group will have the main priority. Okay, it will have the highest priority. So students, the carbon atom which is attached to the carbon atom of the functional group that has the highest priority is called as the alpha carbon. So now over here you all can see that the functional group that the carbon atom which is attached to the carboxyl group is the alpha carbon. Similarly students, if there is a carbon atom which is attached to the alpha carbon atom, it will be called as beta carbon. If there is a carbon atom that is attached to the beta carbon, then it will be called as the gamma carbon. Okay, so we are not concerned about beta and gamma carbon, we are just concerned about the alpha carbon atom. So students, over here you all can see in green color there is this variable R group, that is the variable alkyl group. So students, this R group in the structure of alpha amino acid, it represents the side chain. Okay, and they may also contain additional functional groups. Now there are near about 20 amino acids, so the R group for each amino acid may be different. Now students, we have become quite familiar with the structure of alpha amino acid. So when there is a carboxyl group that is attached to a alpha carbon atom, and next to it is the amino group, and there is a variable R group, and there is a hydrogen atom that is connected to the alpha carbon atom, then we say that it is a structure of alpha amino acid. But my dear students, there is an exception, and that exception is the molecule glycine. In glycine, there will be no variable alkyl group. The variable alkyl group is replaced by a hydrogen atom, and that molecule is glycine. So glycine is basically a amino acid which is the simplest of all and only amino acid which is optically inactive. That is, it is not chiral. Otherwise, all the alpha amino acids are optically active and they are chiral. Students, the alpha carbon in alpha amino acids have L configuration. You all just have to remember one thing, that is, when you all will be finding the amino acid that is attached to the alpha carbon on the left hand side, then it will be having the L configuration. If it in case the amino group that is attached to the alpha carbon is on the right hand side, then it will be D amino acid. So you all have to keep this thing in your mind. So these L alpha amino acids are represented by Fischer projection formula. So over here you all can see that the carbon atom which is there, it is represented by horizontal and vertical line intersection point. Students, let us now study the classification of alpha amino acids. So the classification is broadly divided into two types. First is alpha amino acids are classified on the basis of side chains, and second is they are classified on the basis of synthesis. So students, when they are classified based on side chains, they are acidic amino acid, basic amino acid and neutral amino acids. And when they are classified on the basis of synthesis, they are further classified on the basis of essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. So now we shall be studying the classification of alpha amino acids based on side chains. Now students, you all know that alpha amino acid consists of a carboxylic group and an amino group. So in case of acidic amino acids, carboxylic groups are more in number as compared to the amino groups. So students, if the R contains a carboxylic group, the amino acid is acidic amino acid. So I hope you all understand that when COOH group, that is the carboxylic group, is more in number as compared to the NH2 group, then it is called as acidic amino acid. The example of acidic amino acid is glutamic acid, which is also written as GLU. Now students, the structure of glutamic acid is NH2CH COOH CH2CH2COOH. So students, in that structure you all could see that there was only one amino acid, whereas there were two carboxylic acids. The second classification of amino acid based on side chain is the basic amino acid. So students, in case of basic amino acid, the amino acid group will be more in number as compared to the carboxylic acid group. And the examples are histidine, arginine, lysine and even glutamine. So now the structure of glutamine is NH2 C double bond O CH2 CH2 CH NH2 COOH. So if you all see the structure of glutamine, you all will see that there are two NH2 groups, that is two amino groups, whereas there is only one COOH group. That is why glutamine, which is also denoted as GLU, is the example of basic amino acids, followed by histidine, arginine and lysine. The third type of alpha amino acid based on side chain is called as neutral amino acid. So students, in neutral amino acids, the number of carboxylic groups and the number of amino groups are the same. That is, a particular molecule has the same number of amino acids as well as same number of carboxylic acids. And the examples are glycine, alanine, valine. So students, the formula for glycine is NH2 CH2 COOH. So students, over here you all are having one molecule of NH2, that is amino group, and one molecule of COOH, that is the carboxylic group. So glycine, also called as GLY, is the example of neutral amino acids. So students, this was the classification of alpha amino acids based on the side chain. Now we shall study the classification of alpha amino acids based on the synthesis. Students, the second classification is based on the synthesis. So there are basically two types. First is the essential amino acids and second one is the non-essential amino acids. Now students, what are essential amino acids? So there are certain kinds of amino acids which cannot be synthesized into our body, and to avoid the deficiency of such amino acids, we have to take it regularly through our diet. And the examples of some essential amino acids are lysine, valine, leucine, isoleucine. So these are the examples of essential amino acids. Now talking about non-essential amino acids. So students, those amino acids are synthesized in our body. That is, our body makes those amino acids. So it is not necessary for us to intake them through the diet. So students, I hope you all understood the difference between essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. So the examples of non-essential amino acids are glutamic acid, serine, and so on. Students, this chart represents the classification of amino acids based on the neutral alpha amino acids, then acidic amino acids and basic amino acids. So students, in some of the alpha amino acids, you all can see that there is an asterisk mark. So that asterisk mark represents that those amino acids are essential amino acids. That is, they cannot be synthesized in our body. We have to intake it through a diet. So students, the examples of neutral alpha amino acids you all can see glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine and so on. Okay, so students, this is the general formula of all these alpha amino acids, and you all can see over here that there is a bond. For glycine it is H dash, so that dash, after dash it represents R, that is the alkyl group. So let us see the three letter symbol. So students, talking about alpha amino acids, it is very important that they are represented by three letter symbol. In biology you all might have studied. And to the non-biology students, let me tell you all that the alpha amino acids, they are represented by this three letter symbol. So the first initial three letters, sometimes it is not always the case that it is initial. So it can be represented by these three letter symbols, and if a particular alpha amino acid is represented by one letter symbol, then it carries its initial. Okay, so for glycine you all can see GLY, one letter, capital G. For alanine it is ALA and symbol is A, but it is not always the case that the first three letters are being taken. So if you all see for glutamine, so it is GIN and the one letter symbol is Q. Okay, so this was about the alpha neutral. I hope by now it is clear that what are acidic alpha amino acids which contains more number of carboxylic group, or which contains carboxylic groups are the alpha amino acids. So acidic alpha amino acids. So you all can see over here aspartic acid, glutamic acids are the examples of acidic alpha amino acid. Whereas for basic it is lysine, arginine and histidine. Students, all these three basic alpha amino acids are essential amino acids, and that is why it is represented by an asterisk symbol. Students, now let us study one important property of amino acids, and that is Zwitter ion. Students, alpha amino acids are crystalline, that is, they have definite arrangement of atoms. They are colorless, that is, alpha amino acids do not show any color. They are soluble in water, they are non-volatile, and they have high melting point. Alpha amino acids in their aqueous solutions form salts due to the presence of both acidic carboxyl group as well as basic amino groups in the same molecule. That is, my dear children, the structure of alpha amino acid is in such a way that they have an acidic component also and they have a basic component also. The acidic component is the carboxyl group and the basic component is the amino group. And students, these are the dipolar ions which are also called as Zwitter ions, because students, they will be having a positive charge also and a negative charge also. Let us study more about the structure of Zwitter ion. So students, in this structure of amino acids, you all can see that carboxyl group is an acidic group and amino group is a basic group. Now students, this amino group has a lone pair of electron and the carboxyl group has a proton. So this carboxyl group can donate its proton very easily to the NH2 group, that is the amino group. And students, when the proton transfer takes place, this carboxyl group, after donating its proton, it will acquire a negative charge. Whereas this amino group, after accepting the proton, it will acquire the positive charge. So students, this is called as Zwitter ion, where this same molecule has two charges, that is the positive charge and the negative charge. Now here the proton transfer from acidic group to basic group of the amino acid, it leads to the formation of salt, which is also called as Zwitter ion. Students, if you look at the corresponding formulas of all these three, then you all will be finding that the molecular mass of alpha amino acid is 83 and that of the corresponding amines and carboxylic acid is 87 and 88 respectively. But if you look at the melting point column, then you all will find that the alpha amino acids have very much high melting point as compared to that of the remaining two, carboxylic acid and the amines. And students, that is because these alpha amino acids exist as a Zwitter ion. Now what happens is there is strong intermolecular dipolar attraction, because of which these alpha amino acids have high melting point. Students, let us understand the note 2. So alpha amino acids, when they are dissolved in any aqueous solution, they can exist in different forms. But that will depend upon the pH of that particular aqueous solution in which they are dissolved. So now if the pH is low, that is if the pH is maybe 2 or less than 2, then the alpha amino acid will exhibit the cationic state. So you all can see in the first picture. So the overall charge of the cation will be +1. Then students, if the aqueous solution has a higher pH, if the pH of that solution is greater than 10, then it will exist in the anionic form. Okay, and the overall charge will be -1. Whereas if the pH is equivalent to 6, then there will be no net charge on that particular alpha amino acid and it will exhibit as the Zwitter ion. Okay, where there will be an ammonium ion and the carboxylate ion. Students, now let us study some important concept related to alpha amino acids. So the first one is what is a peptide bond, and the second is what are polypeptides. So we know that amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, that is proteins on hydrolysis will give us the mixture of alpha amino acids. That is, there are proteins which on hydrolysis gives alpha amino acids. Okay. Now these proteins are also polypeptides. Now what is polypeptides? Poly means many. So when there are a number of alpha amino acids which are linked by polypeptides bond, it is called as when they are linked by peptide bonds, they give rise to polypeptides. Now let us understand what is this peptide bond. Okay. Now proteins are polypeptides having more than 100 amino acid residues linked by peptide bonds. Now what are amino acid residues? So these are the CHR units. We will be studying about this. Okay. Then polypeptides are formed when more than 10 amino acids linked by peptide bonds. So students, please note that what are amino acid residues? They are the CHR unit. Okay, and when more than 10 amino acids are linked to one another by peptide bonds, they give rise to polypeptides. What are peptide bonds? We are going to study in next slide. Then alpha amino acids are the simplest form of monomers used to prepare polypeptide chain and protein. Now students, the name itself tell you all that poly means many and chain means the repeating unit. So we are going to study what exactly do we mean by peptide bond, and we are going to study about polypeptides in our next slides. Students, now let us study what is peptide bond. It is also called as peptide linkage. Before that, let us understand what is alpha amino acid. We have already studied about alpha amino acid. So, alpha amino acids are carboxylic acids and they have amino group that is bonded to alpha carbon, that is the carbon that is next to the carboxylic group. So, a alpha amino acid will be having an amino group and it will be having a carboxyl group. Now what happens is a bond connects alpha amino acids to each other, and that bond is called as a peptide bond. That is, an amide is formed between two or more amino acids between COOH group and NH2 group by elimination of water molecule. So let us study how exactly is this peptide bond formed. Now students, over here you all will be able to see that the carboxylic group of one molecule and the amino group of other molecule forms a bond with the removal of water molecule, and the bond is formed between NH of one molecule and C double bond O of the other molecule. So students, that CONH bond which is formed is called as the peptide bond. So now students, let us take the example of glycine and alanine. So students, over here you all can see that a water molecule will be removed from glycine and alanine. That is OH from glycine and H from alanine will be removed. So the water molecule will be removed and the CO of glycine and the NH of alanine will form a bond. So students, this CONH bond is called as a peptide bond. And students, this new molecule which is formed, or this new protein which is formed, is called as glycylalanine. This glycylalanine is a dipeptide. And over here you all can see that the two amino acid units are linked by a peptide linkage. Now students, here if we combine a third molecule of alpha amino acid with this dipeptide, then it will result in the formation of a tripeptide. Similarly students, we can link four amino acids, 5 amino acids, 6 amino acids and so on. So it will result in the formation of tetrapeptide, pentapeptide, hexapeptide and so on. Students, now let us study some examples of how a dipeptide linkage is being formed. Okay, so students, in the first example, you all can see two glycine molecules. Okay, so the carboxyl group of first glycine reacts with the amino group of the second glycine and it forms a dipeptide bond by removal of a water molecule. So students, the dipeptide which is formed is called as glycine. Now students, let us look at the second example of dipeptide. So that is formed from two different molecules of alanine. So again over here, carboxylic group of one alanine reacts with the amino group of another alanine and it forms alanyl alanine. Let us take some more examples. Over here you all can see carboxylic group of one tyrosine molecule reacts with the amino group of another tyrosine molecule and it forms tyrosine with the removal of water molecule. So students, over here you all can see the linkage, that is the C double bond NH linkage, that is the peptide linkage or peptide bond. Then students, previously we saw same molecules reacting with each other to form a dipeptide bond. Now we shall see two different molecules reacting with each other to form a dipeptide. So the first example is of glycine and alanine. So over here you all can see that the carboxyl group of glycine reacts with the amino group of alanine. And students, it forms a dipeptide which is called as glycylalanine. Then students, let us take the second example, that is of alanine and glycine. Over here the difference is carboxylic acid group of alanine reacts with the amino group of glycine, which is vice versa of the first reaction. So you all can see that alanyl glycine is being formed by removal of water molecule. The next reaction is formation of dipeptide from glycine and tyrosine. So in the first reaction you all can see that the carboxylic group of glycine reacts with the amino group of tyrosine, and with the removal of water molecule it forms a dipeptide bond, that is glycyl tyrosine. And students, in the second one again it is vice versa, that is the carboxylic group of tyrosine is reacted with the amino group of glycine. With the removal of water molecule it forms the dipeptide, that is tyrosyl glycine. So my dear students, over here if a third molecule of alpha amino acid is reacted with a dipeptide, then it will form a tripeptide. If four molecules are reacted, it will form a tetrapeptide, and so on. Students, now let us understand what is polypeptide. Students, you all know poly means what? Many. And peptide. So what is a peptide bond? So the bond that connects alpha amino acids to each other is called as a polypeptide bond. So it is but obvious that when the number of alpha amino acids that are linked to each other are more, then it is called as a polypeptide. So what exactly is polypeptide? So the number of alpha amino acids linked by peptide bonds is more than 10. So the linkage which is there of the amino acid, it should be more than 10. Then the product which is formed, it's called as the polypeptides. Now students, see the figure that is at the bottom. So you all can see CH and you all can see R1, CHR2, CHR3. The alkyl groups are colored pink, CHR3. So students, this all CHR groups or units which you all can see are called as amino acid residues. So these CHR units are linked by peptide bonds and they are called as amino acid residues. Now students, if you all look at this polypeptide chain, you all will observe one thing, that the terminal of this polypeptide chain is not same or is not identical. You all can see that at one end there is a free carboxyl group, whereas at the other end there is a free amino group. So students, that end of the polypeptide chain which has a free carboxyl group is called as a C-terminal, whereas that end of the polypeptide chain which has a free amino group is called as the N-terminal. Let us now study about the classification of proteins. So students, proteins are basically classified into two types depending upon their molecular shape. The first type of protein is the fibrous protein and the second type of protein is the globular protein. Now, fibrous protein, as per the name suggests, they are fiber-like structure. Fiber-like structure means they must be having a long strand. And students, these long strands are made up of polypeptides. And these long strands run parallel to each other. So these chains which run parallel to each other are held together by hydrogen bonds and disulfide bonds. The example of fibrous protein is hair, nail, wool. Now my dear children, our hair contains the protein keratin. Students, have you any time observed our hair dissolving in water? No, my dear students. From this, we can conclude that fibrous proteins are insoluble in water. Some examples of fibrous proteins are keratin, fibroin, collagen, and myosin. So students, keratin is a protein that is present in hair, skin, nails, horn, feathers. Fibrin is present in silk. Collagen is present in tendons. And myosin is present in muscles. So my dear students, when all these are exposed to water, you all know that they do not dissolve in water. And from this we can say that fibrous proteins are insoluble in water. The second kind of protein is the globular protein. Now students, globular proteins have spherical shape. That is, the polypeptide chains coil around to form a spring or a spherical structure. The chains of the globular proteins are held together by intramolecular hydrogen bonding. We saw that fibrous proteins were water insoluble, whereas my dear children, globular proteins are soluble in water. Let us study the examples of globular proteins. So they are hemoglobin, albumin, thyroglobulin and insulin. So hemoglobin is present in blood, albumin is present in egg, thyroglobulin is present in thyroid gland and insulin in the pancreas. And students, all these proteins are soluble in water, in dilute acid, base and alcohol. So let us see the structure of fibrous protein and globular protein. Now in this fibrous protein, you all can see that they have elongated and rod-like shape, whereas in globular protein, you all can see spherical or spring-like shape. So in fibrous protein, the polypeptide chains run parallel to each other. Whereas when we talk about globular proteins, the polypeptide chains are coiled with each other. Students, in the previous slides, you all studied about the two types of proteins. Those are the globular proteins and the fibrous proteins. So students, depending upon the molecular shape, these proteins have been classified into the two types. Now, you all need to know that these shapes, that is the globular shape and the fibrous shape, are the result of four level structures of proteins. Okay, and these structures of proteins are primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure of protein. But this year in your syllabus, you all are only going to study about primary structure of protein. The secondary, tertiary and quaternary is being skipped out of your syllabus. Please take a note of that. Students, now let us study about the primary structure of proteins. So let us understand what exactly it is. So primary structure tells us the sequence of amino acid in the polypeptide chain. Means which all amino acid constituent a peptide chain. Now students, if see, there is a peptide chain that consists of a alanine, glycine, glycine, alanine, glycine, then it will form a one protein chain. Whereas if the sequence is leucine, glycine, leucine, glycine, leucine, glycine and so on, then students, there is a change in the sequence of amino acid. First it was alanine, glycine, glycine, alanine, glycine, glycine. Then the second sequence was leucine, glycine, leucine, glycine. So students, there is a change in the sequence of amino acid residues. So that results in different protein. Means the first chain was different than the second chain. Students, primary structure of protein is represented by three-letter symbols of amino acid residues. So as per their sequence in the concerned protein. So we shall see the structure of primary protein. Now students, in this slide you all can see that the primary structure is represented by the structural formula. Okay, so on the left hand side you all can see the N terminal of the structural formula, and on the right hand side you all can see the C terminal. So the end of the formula, which has the free carboxylic group, is called as the C terminal, while the other end that has the free amino group is called as the N terminal. Then students, look at the figure B. So you all can see the representation with amino acid symbols. So students, always remember that while you represent this primary structure or secondary structure, you all have to write the first three letters of a particular amino acid. It is not necessary that the letters are first three only. It can be anything. So you can see that there is alanine, glycine, serine, tyrosine, glycine, and lysine. So you all can see these representations with amino acid. Denaturation of proteins. Let us see the definition first. Denaturation is the process by which the molecular shape of a protein changes without breaking the amide peptide bonds that form the primary structure. Or the second definition is a process that changes the three-dimensional structure of native protein is called denaturation of protein. Now students, let us see how denaturation of protein happens and what is a denaturation of proteins. So students, when a native form of protein, that is native means proteins in their folded or assembled form are subjected to some certain physical changes like temperature or maybe chemical changes like pH, the hydrogen bonds are disturbed, and due to this the alpha helix gets uncoiled and protein loses its biological activity, and this process is called as denaturation of protein. Now students, during denaturation the secondary and tertiary structure of proteins are destroyed, whereas the primary structure of protein remains intact. Now the examples of denaturation of proteins are coagulation of milk and coagulation of egg. Students, the word or the term coagulation means forming a lump. So you all might have seen that coagulation of milk is also called as a formation of curd, where lumps of milk are being formed. Or when we take the example of coagulation of egg, so egg is in the form of yolk, and when it is being heated, when the egg is heated, so it is being converted into a white colored lump, so that is called as coagulation of egg.